Changers with Joe Hopkins, who is the publisher of the Journal newspaper and also the attorney here in the case with this deputy who allegedly has hurt some kids in the community. Now, Joe, it sounds to me that maybe, according to the police that was just here, to Captain McLean, that maybe these weren't just innocent kids, you know, that are getting hurt by these officers, that they're causing physical damage to the officers and the officers were retaliating. What do you think about that when you heard Captain McLean say that?
Well, all of our kids aren't innocent, but all of them certainly are not gangsters, and all of them certainly are not criminals. For example, there was a gentleman named Christopher Lee Finney who works for Outward Bound, who in April was arrested with the same tactics by the same officer,
Deputy Thames.
This officer has a tendency to getting the people out of the car and into the back seat where he has control. In this case, he was trying to get Finney into the back seat, but there were 3 children there. Finney's 9-year-old, 3-year-old, and 9-month-old were in the back seat. He's driving down the street. He's stopped because he doesn't have his front tags on. If he doesn't have his front tags on, give him a ticket. If he doesn't have a driver's license, which is what happened, they asked him for his driver's license. He said, "I don't have them with me." That's a $12,500. We get fines of relatively small fines or community service for that all day long.
Okay, so did something violent happen there?
Well, Thames said, "Get out of the car." And Finney wants to know, well, what did I do? He said, "Get the fuck out the car." I don't know if I can say that.
Okay, yeah, let's keep it G-rated here for the families watching.
And that is their favorite word, and yet young people are not supposed to show that they're angry when these cops start talking to them like that. For another example, well, and Finney, by the way, ends up charged with, and they all ends up charged with 148. You know, even if you
What's
read
the 148?
148 is interfering, obstructing officer in his duty.
Let's go back to these cases that you wrote about, Joe, because
the ones that I wrote about.
Yes.
Okay.
The captain just sat here right now and said that everything in your story was just wrong. He said, first of all, that the deputy Thames was not even was not even there at the scene when during the burning of the shoulder of one of the suspects. What do you say when you hear that?
That may be true, and I'll correct that, but that doesn't correct the problem. What that tells me is there's another rogue cop in there who may be worse than Thames, because what happens is when you look at the burns on this gentleman's shoulder.
Yeah, let me hold that
and
up.
It's not just
pretty
one
severe
shoulder.
Here, I don't know which camera to hold it up to.
That one's the right shoulder. This is the left shoulder. Okay. They didn't do this to, they don't do this to murderers. They treat them with dignity. This guy got burned on both shoulders, which means that whoever the cop was had to work at it. And then he got burned in the chest. Then he got his jaws broken.
Okay.
And
well, it sounds like there are some things that are not disputed. The things that are not disputed is that the guy was hurt. His jaw was hurt somehow. Mm-hmm. His shoulder was burned, mm-hmm. and that he just was hurt. But what is disputed is some of the things that you wrote. I mean, to write something like Thames did this to this guy and Thames not being there seems like a pretty big deal, and it sounds like that's something that the captain had a major issue with.
Well, what's interesting about that is that's easily correctable. The fact that there's at least 2 rogues in the department is less easily corrected. Thames, I mean, everybody calls him Tiger Woods,
right? Because you say he looks like the golfer.
He looks like the golfer, but he is a stone thug in the department.
Wow. That's a heavy charge against him. By the way,
I filed a new one today, a young man that he stopped over on Lincoln.
Was that the jaywalking incident?
This wasn't a jaywalking incident. This was a young man who was in his car, probably should have been stopped. Music was going loud. They got him out of the car. They get everybody out of the car. Everybody black needs to get the hell out of the car. Excuse the expression. They need to get out of the car. Everybody doesn't need to get out of the car. When I get stopped by the police, I take my driver's license out and put it out the window, because I don't talk to them, because they set up fights. They initiate, they antagonize, and young black men don't go for the antagonism very easily. They're not.
But it seems to me that you're very smart. When
I'm
a police
70 years old.
Well, I'm not yet there,
You know,
but the point is that you and I both know that when we're being stopped by police, that we don't mess with them. We give them what they ask for, and that's it. It sounds like, I mean, they said that your client said to call for backup because I ain't getting out of this car.
Well, they're talking.
I mean, that sounds like he's kind of instigating a little, doesn't it?
I want to show you in this.
But wait, doesn't it sound like he was instigating a little?
I don't know that that's what happened. That's what the captain said.
Okay.
His mouth ain't no prayer book either. I have a report right here where the officer himself said that the backup call was made before they pulled Finney over. Now, what is that all about?
Well, that's a good question, because
and that's in their writing.
The police report, and the police report said that they called for backup afterwards.
This is a different report.
Oh, there's a different incident.
Since I got the wrong.
My head is spinning with all these different incidents that you're talking
about.
It sounds like there's a lot.
I filed a new one today, claim for damages, headed for a lawsuit. I got a couple that are coming up. The young man that was beat in front of the barbershop over on Fair Oaks, a week and a half ago, they arrested his mother, they arrested his father, because they came out and they saw Thames in the back seat of the car, which is his favorite place, beating the stuffing out of a young man who was handcuffed, their son, and he said, "What are you doing?" They arrested him and said he's interfering. That's another 148. The mother came out. Their report says she was trying to open the door.
Also in the reports, it says that these suspects are fighting. They're trying to get away from the police or run, resisting arrest, whatever. Do you think there's any truth to that at all? And, I mean, if as a police officer you have a suspect who's maybe being violent towards you, you have the right as a police officer, from what I understand, to defend yourself, to try and subdue the guy. Yes or no?
If you're in the back seat of a car being beaten, you're not running anywhere.
But then they're trying to get him out of the car, it sounded like.
No, they put them in the back seat. They don't, most, and I've been around for a while. I've been doing this almost 30 years. The police officers, first of all, the second officer stands at the side window to make sure that there's no trouble. Not these new sheriff, and this is a new regime that thinks everybody up here is a gang member. They say, get out the car. The minute they get the slightest inkling that that you're not going to do exactly what they say do, and that you're not going to be smiling and grinning when they're cursing at you and telling you to get the so-and-so out the car. You're supposed to be smiling and grinning, and if you don't, they get you out and they proceed to create an emergency which gives them the right to beat you up.
So you think it's manufactured, the suspects?
It's absolutely manufactured. Let me just an additional, I was in court the other day, 2 days ago, as a matter of fact, well, one day last week, doing a motion, what we call a pitches motion, to find out the background of the officer on Thames, of all people. And there were two young ladies in the courtroom, and I said, "Why are you guys here?" And they said, "Well, we got stopped for jaywalking at the corner of Los Robles and Woodbury." And one of them said, "Yeah, they stopped me Monday, and then they stopped me Wednesday. I got 3 tickets." This stuff is economically a problem for our community. There are cops who would say, "You don't do jaywalking here." By the way, there's no lines, there's no white lines at Fair Oaks. I mean, at that, and there's also none where that young man was beaten in his front yard. There's no white lines from going east from the liquor store to the burger place on Fair Oaks.
Joe, we got less than a minute left. I'm sorry. Time goes so fast. I wish I would have just put a half hour for each of you guys. But the police say that the suspect with the jaywalking incident tried to pull the deputy into the car. Is that true at all?
That's exactly what he writes in the Finney report also.
Okay, but you dispute that?
That he tried to pull him in the car?
Yeah, that the suspect tried to pull the officer.
No, he didn't. No,
okay.
It makes absolutely no sense.
Okay, let me ask you this.
First they say they're trying to run away, and then he says he's pulling him in the car? Come on, which is it? Let
me ask you this closing question. Is there any balance that can be struck here? Because, you know, the community, I've been there. I've watched the community cry out to police and say, help us. We're being overrun by these gangs, there's shootings and that kind of thing. They come in and this happens. We have 15 seconds before we have to go. Is there a balance?
We want the gangs gone, but we also want the gangs in uniform gone. We are not a neighborhood of thugs.
Okay, what do you finally want to happen in 10 seconds or less?
I just said it. I want the gangs gone. How they do it, I don't know. But you don't bring in a lot of outsiders, occupying troops, which is what these cops are, and say, go in and clean those Iraqi black folks up, because they only understand one thing: beat them because they are less than human. And that's the way they've been treating our young men.
Heavy charges there, Joe. Heavy charges. All right.
I got stuff to back it up.
Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. Thanks to the captain for being here as well. And thank you for watching CCN Game Changers. Join us next time. I'm Tammy Devine. Have a great week.